Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Science of SaaS Startups podcast. Today, I'm talking to Abhijeet Vijayvergia. Abhijeet is the CEO and co-founder of Nectar. Nectar is a B2B sales productivity startup which wants to reduce the amount of time which sales teams spend on manual data entry. Abhijeet, welcome.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to talking with you today.
Good stuff. So just want to ask a few questions just to help the audience get to know you a little bit. So, over the last 18 months, everybody's been working in an entirely new way, a lot more virtual working. What have you found to be the hardest part or the biggest challenges of working virtually?
I think the biggest challenge of working virtually for most people is lack of visibility. That I've seen a lot of people talk about in terms of what you're doing from a day-to-day activity to what's been happening with your customers, your pipeline, and things like those. So most of our customers and early users did mention about this during our research as well. So it actually helped us prioritize some of our features on the product roadmap to give them a lot of visibility, with respect to data, with respect to collaboration that we can. So yeah, I think that's something of a challenge that came out, and we actually used it as a feature idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And going back to the kind of early part of your life, when you were at school, what was your favorite subject?
I have to say it was mathematics. I quite enjoyed playing with numbers from early days, and my dad was he's very good with calculations. He's like a walking calculator of sorts. So I got really inspired, and I ended up developing a fondness for the subject. Yeah.
And did like a fondness for maths, did that take you into software development? Are you kind of involved in that side of things now?
So my likeness for mathematics took me closer to the mathematics and science stream back in school, and then I chose to go for engineering, and I did chemical engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, which was one of the earliest technical schools in the country back then when I was in India. From engineering, being a chemical engineer, I moved on to the business side of things, where obviously, being good with numbers generally helps with the overall business. So I quite enjoyed the transition from there. Software development was something which, while I'm not a developer myself, I'm familiar with it. I can code, but that's not my strength area. My strength is largely around building products and selling them. So I've been associated with the tech industry for 11 years now, but mostly on the go-to-market and product and business side of things than the engineering side of things.
Yeah, I guess it helps though when you've got a CEO who at least can kind of understand the technical concepts and kind of work with the teams on that side.
Yeah, that's been helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. And thinking about your professional career as a whole, like who would you say has been a mentor or an individual that's kind of had the biggest influence on your professional career?
Yeah, so I think a bunch of folks have been like following of late. So I've not had a formal mentor yet, where I've got a mentor-mentee relationship formally going on, but I've definitely followed a few people into their journey and learned from their experience and try to imbibe some of those learnings into my business experience. So one of them is, obviously, Mark Benioff is a big inspiration. Well, I haven't met him yet, but I've like followed his journey from early days when they started Salesforce and IPO'd. I think the IPO caught my attention in 2003. And then when we started hearing about like how SaaS was disrupting the whole enterprise software market, and back in 2010, I started using the ERP system. I was into, as I mentioned, I was chemical engineer, so I was into an industry closer to chemical engineering, which was mostly on the manufacturing, clean technology side of it. So there I got familiar with ERP, and I hated the ERP user experience. I just felt that, I mean, there should be a better user experience. And then I got introduced into the world of CRM in 2010. I joined a SaaS startup which was pre-product market fit, and we were building a CRM product for retailers, a B2C CRM solution. So there, I think the way it was getting built was pretty interesting. So a lot of learnings along that way I had from Salesforce and Benioff and their experience, which helped me in my previous company and then helped me throughout my entrepreneurial journey as well. So I've seen how Salesforce has become like a big force. Like it's a $22 billion revenue company, still
It's an
growing.
ecosystem now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an ecosystem. It continues to grow, and the transition from building a great product, focusing on the users, making it very convenient, to like launching multiple products when you have a product market fit, and how do you really invest in go to market and scale it out. Then the whole platform approach, I think that was a master stroke, transitioning from a point solution or a tool to like a platform where they invited competitors to build onto their own platform, which basically like differentiated them against many other CRM systems which were trying to play a catch up game. And Salesforce is now too big. They are like the, I would say, the blue-eyed boy for cloud industry in general. So they've done quite well. So I've definitely taken my learnings and inspiration from his experience. The other guy is Mark Roberts, the Chief Revenue Officer at HubSpot. I think his journey from the 0 to 100 million ARR at HubSpot has been, I think he's documented it well. He talks about it at multiple forums. He comes on for public speaking and he shares that experience. So that's been like very valuable. I definitely used his early stage experience, the 0 to 1 and 1 to 10 million ARR journey. And I've gone through that similar experience at my previous company where we scaled from a 0 to 50 million ARR. While we did not IPO like HubSpot, which did in US at that time, I think my previous company might do something in the coming months. But there, it has been like a very interesting experience and learning to just try to see a peer who has done that a few years ahead of you, and you try to apply some of those best practices, and especially you learn like what not to do. So I think that's been very valuable. So I think these two gentlemen have been like definitely great motivators for me. While I've not like met them, and the third guy is James Clear of Atomic Habits. So
just from a general I've read that book too.
Yeah. So general productivity standpoint, I do follow his nuggets of wisdom. So yeah. So these have been like three gentlemen who have not met me or don't know me, but I've like definitely learned from them.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So if we jump into talking about Nectar for a little bit, do you want to kick us off and just give us an overview of the company and what you guys are trying to do?
Yeah. So the roots of the company formulated in my previous experience. As I mentioned, I took that company from a 0 to 50 million ARR journey, and as we were doing it within the 7 years I was there, it was like a roller coaster ride. I mean, there were like quarters which were feast or famine. We're closing some big deals, and the next quarter we're missing some big ones, and we had nothing left. So it was getting very important for us to make our sales repeatable, predictable, and also making sure we invest in building the sales capacity as well as improving productivity and yield of our sales team. So I spent a lot of time like in sales enablement, sales operations, along with the P&L responsibilities, so that we are playing smart and not just like spending a lot of money in like just hiring more salespeople and firing them. So I think that was like fundamental to my experience, and a lot of pain points that I saw in that journey to make salespeople successful, to de-risk deals, highlight the red flags, improve collaboration across the revenue team. So it was like quite manual, and it was not very data driven. So I spent a lot of time hustling through that. And when I was like doing a bit more research, talking to a lot of peers, the other VP sales and CROs in different companies, they all like shared similar experience that quota attainment is big problem. While they are attaining quota at their level, but a lot of their reps don't attend it. So how do you make more salespeople successful? Kept coming back in conversations, and I would have looked at 100 plus tools during my research back in 2017 to 2019. I realized that there's an opportunity to build a system on top of CRM system and connect the dots across the different data sources which buyers and sellers deal with and exchange, and then how internally revenue teams collaborate as they are working through their accounts, leads, and opportunities. So the data sits in different silos, and then there are in terms of getting the valuable insights become a big challenge. Death by dashboards is real within businesses. So these all resonated as like strong pain areas. So I decided to quit. The big trigger was the report from Forbes in 2019, where they published 57% of the account executives missed their quota in 2019 across North America. So I just felt that it is not just a local or regional problem; it's a global problem. In bigger markets, also there's a challenge. So I decided to start up Nectar.ai, and the vision at Nectar.ai is to be like the true friend to salesperson. So we are like a guided selling platform on top of the existing tech stack. So tools like CRM systems, conversation intelligence systems, sales engagement systems, LinkedIn, uh, email, calendar. So there are multiple systems being used by revenue team, but they don't talk to each other. They are all in silos. CRM is supposed to hold and connect all of this data together, but it's not able to do that because largely dependent on salespeople to update that, and that data update never happens on time. So we just felt that there is a big opportunity to connect all of these tech stack together and be the intelligence layer on top of the existing marketing and tech stack of the client. And once you create that experience, then you can drive meaningful insights and next best actions for the users. So if in a nutshell I have to explain Nectar to you, it's I would say a Google Assistant for B2B sales, or a Siri for sales, right? That's the simplified version. If I had to look at the analyst parlance, we typically fall under the connected revenue enablement category, where we are able to connect all the data across the entire revenue function and be able to guide them on their playbooks and their next best action to win more deals and make more sales reps successful. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously, the CRM system is the bane of like many salespeople's lives. You know, I think a lot of salespeople get frustrated when they're having to spend time on kind of data entry rather than talking to customers. But more and more as every year goes by, like data is playing a bigger and bigger part in the sales process, in sales strategy. Can you give us a sense of how important data is in, you know, or up-to-date data is for a CRM system, and also like what have these systems been getting wrong in terms of the user experience so far?
Yeah, I think I'll pick up the second question first, which is the user experience. I think most tools conventionally have been built for the buyer, which is like, let's say the VP of sales, CEO, or the chief revenue officer. So they will keep the buyer interest in mind. They'll create like a good looking dashboard to start with, and which basically audits the salesperson, right? I mean, it doesn't give anything to the sales rep, but gives the leadership a dashboard where they can track the salesperson. So that's been like conventional way of most sales tools, the way they've operated, including CRM system. But the way, if you look at last 5 to 10 years, the world is moving towards a user-driven system versus like a buyer-driven market. And I think in sales as well, it's important to get the buy-in of the sales rep, and get them to adopt a system or a technology or a process in order to unlock a true enterprise value. Because otherwise, I mean, most organizations today, if you look at it, they struggle with CRM adoption. CRM ROI is a big question. While it's very valuable, I mean, it's a must-have system. But even despite all of that, I mean, the data in CRM is not reliable in most businesses. So our approach there is largely to focus on users first, create a delightful user experience, make it very easy, intuitive for them to do anything. They should not be jumping into multiple tabs, like finding ways and figure ways to collaborate with their managers or their peers in the marketing team or pre-sales team. All of that should be very easy. It should not happen in different systems, different windows, and they should be able to do it in one place. So the idea behind that is to have a great user experience, have an easy, intuitive UI, bring connected data in the backend to make sure whatever the user needs, it's right on their fingertip. They don't have to go anywhere to look at it, and then give them the ability to take that action. So deliver a complete experience. So it should not happen that there is a system of record, then there's a system of intelligence, and there's a system of action. So give that experience into their workflow. So that's been the primary focus on the user experience side of it. Coming back to the point around data, I think data is very valuable. It's gold to most businesses, and it's even more important for remote selling or distributed sales teams or hybrid sales motion that exists today and probably will continue to be there. I don't think so. We're going back to like the conventional wine and dine sales experience, and buyers also don't prefer it. If you look at multiple studies being done by Gartner or McKinsey's of the world, increasingly they've been talking about how buyers would want to spend more time evaluating the product, solution, or the company, and they make up their mind, take a decision before they even do the first call or a discovery call with salesperson. So I think it's increasingly important that we look at the data as a sales community more closely. And there's so much of digital data that's getting generated today that was not there even 5 years back. I think COVID has only accelerated the way digital data is getting generated, but unfortunately, it doesn't get captured. And even if it's captured, it doesn't enter the right systems at the right time to make it available to the users and for insights to come out of that data. So it is quite hard because there are multiple silos. There are multiple challenges with respect to conventional CRM systems, which don't even have those tables to handle the modern data. So I think what's important for a sales team now, today's modern sales team, is to have a very precision driven sales process on what happens at every stage of the buyer, not the seller, where the buyer is in that stage, what has happened between the buyer and seller, what has happened between the buying organization and the selling organization, and what is that your playbooks advise you to do. I think all of this needs to come together, and it's possible in the modern ecosystem that exists today. So we are trying to do all of this together to capture these digital footprints that are left behind, bring them into one place, and connect them with the playbooks of the organization, and then deliver this as a friendly user experience. So for the account executive, it's about what I can do today to best use my time and be more productive. For a manager, it could be where do I need to spend my time, which deals I need to support my rep on, or which reps to focus on, what areas for these reps to focus on. For a VP sales, it's about how do I meet my number this quarter. For a CEO, it is how do I transition from a founder-driven sales process to a playbook-driven, repeatable, and predictable sales engine. So, I mean, the answer lies within data, right? I mean, if you start capturing data, start connecting the dots, and then making it available for collaboration between the teams, I think it all starts coming together. So that's how we are dealing with it, like bringing this whole connected revenue enablement platform across the sales organization. Yeah.
It's part of what you do at Nectar is you mentioned kind of insights and kind of analytics around kind of what leads to deals being won and lost. You mentioned a phrase, a kind of digital footprint just then. So is that how you're kind of providing that analytics? So it's kind of looking at the digital footprint of what happened on those deals that are won and what happened on the ones that were lost, and then you can kind of guide people to kind of do better next time?
That's one of the elements of the product. It's one of the features. We are able to connect all the data that exists between the buyer and seller. So there is the first party data that exists, which is email, calendar, conferences, or there are tools like Outreach and Gong, where there is a sales engagement tool and there is a sales conversation intelligence tool. So there is a lot of data between all of these systems. Then there is the sales enablement system where you have a high spot seismic of the world. Then you got like the third party data systems like LinkedIn and Zoom Info, where they hold a lot of data. And then there is the buyer seller communication that's happening, right? Where they are exchanging emails, WhatsApps, they have calendar meetings getting scheduled between buyers and sellers. And then to add to it, there is the organizational process and methodology that they want to follow, the best practices and the playbook, which is documented at certain stage, but it doesn't get operationalized at scale or tracked and monitored, right? So how do you bring all of this together, right? So the thing that Nectar does here is it becomes a system on top of the existing tech stack. So we integrate with all of these data sources, first party data systems, third party data systems, CRM system, communication platforms, and the playbook. And Nectar has its own playbook engine where you can port out your own playbooks. So we bring all of this together, and then you have the recipe to guide the next best action So then it becomes a true guided selling experience for the account executive or the manager or the VP of sales or the customer success person, right? So we have a broader horizontal use case, but that's how it comes together in the back end to all these integrations, and you make it very accessible into the workflow of the user, where users can come and collaborate on Slack, Microsoft Teams, or WhatsApp. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if we just switch to talking about like the startup life a little bit. So as a company, you've raised a little over $10 million so far across two seed rounds. And
it's 8 actually. It's precisely 8.15, not 10. 8.15.
Oh right, sorry, yeah. But in recent years, we've started to see a lot more software startups coming out of Asia and India, and I think previously a lot of these founders would have gone to the US to start their companies. Like, what do you feel has changed in recent years to kind of stop that flow of talent across the Atlantic to the US?
You mean the flow of talent from Asia to US?
Yeah, like why do you as a founder feel that you don't need to do that, whereas maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago you would have done?
Yeah, I think the world has become more accessible. I would say anyway, we've been like going through globalization for last 30 years, and increasingly the world is getting more and more connected. I think COVID in a bad way showed us that how one thing starts in one region and can become like a truly global pandemic, right? So I mean, same is true for business as well. I mean, it's not required to be at one place to do the business. Obviously, I mean, there's a time zone difference that you need to navigate, but like global businesses can be built from anywhere, right? I mean, so I think my approach to this when we started Nectar also was to build a truly work from anywhere company. So while we are headquartered in Singapore, we got like folks across different countries who support us, and we continue to like build a diverse team and inclusive team across different markets. And the idea is that regardless of where you are, if you have talent, you can add value, you can be part of the company's journey. So that's been like super helpful to us. We've been able to attract the right talent. Our processes are like quite remote friendly from day one, so it just helps us to stay very productive. So I've never felt the need to like move to a principal location so far. While obviously, I mean, the nature of my role, I need to travel. So once I think the travel restrictions ease out, I will be traveling to different markets to like meet customers, meet investors, and grow the business. So that's like a different thing. But overall, I think we've definitely not, as a company, felt the need to like go into a specific location. We could like offer this, and what we are doing at Nectar is what I'm generally seeing trend in different markets as well. I know a lot of SaaS companies who are like remote first, who have like talent in India, and I think now if you look at it, or in Asia for that matter, and if you look at it, the salary levels are also improving. I think what remote has also done is I think it's slowly trying to bridge the gap as well. Even in US, if you look at it, I mean, people have been moving away from the coast, whether it's East Coast or West Coast, and going to like different cities as well. And I mean, that will also create a very interesting dynamic with respect to like, I mean, will the compensation be changed for those people? I guess not. I mean, but and they can add the same value and be productive from anywhere, right? So I think increasingly we will see this pattern more and more, where especially in technology, where it's possible to be remote and continue to work and add value. So I think that will happen there in Asia too, where I think talent doesn't need to move to like a global location or into a North American market, and they can still be doing well for themselves by being in their home country.
And when you've been fundraising, have you only been talking to investors in kind of Asia and India, or also US and Europe? I'm just interested, is there any kind of difference in approach that you need to take with different investors?
Yeah, so I think we've also have global set of investors. So if I look at my angel investors, they hail from US, Europe, Australia, Southeast Asia, India, China, Middle East. So we've got like investors across these different regions from an angel investor standpoint. And when I look at our institutional investors as well, I mean, we've got investors from US, Singapore, India as well. So we've been able to get a diverse set of investors from different markets. So that's also been quite. I mean, a couple of our investors I've not even met. It was all remote where
It's the
they met
modern
us.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been able to build win their trust and show them the value that we have created on the product and for our early customers. So I believe even on the fundraising side now, increasingly investors are quite open to support a company regardless of the location the company is. And that's also one of the primary reasons why startups don't need to be in the Bay Area alone. They can be funded anywhere in the world. So you can build from anywhere for the global market. I think that's something which probably was about to happen a few years back and was getting started, but COVID accelerated it, and I think we are seeing so many startups getting funded and businesses being built out from different parts of the world, and they are global from day one.
So when you're kind of building a company and you're trying to achieve product market fit, are you talking to, well, obviously you'll talk to your existing customers, but then also to new customers. Like, how do you go about putting those conversations together in order to make sure that you're making something which people really need?
I think that's a great question, and it's a very important question for a startup at early stage. So initially, when we started working on Nectar, we were talking to a lot of friends and family customers, trying to see if there are some friendly customers who will give us the data access to their CRM systems, where we can test a few things. We can try to get feedback from the users in their sales organization. So that's how most startups start, right? You get that feedback from the friends and family network. Later on, we realized that I think and we are initially doing that largely in Asia. We figured out that Asia is probably not the early adopter market for some of these new technology solutions that are coming out, especially on the AI side of it. I mean, they are still getting deeper with CRM penetration, CRM adoption. And we realized that some of the markets in North America, Europe, Australia, they're probably a bit more evolved and advanced with respect to adoption of AI-driven tools. And we decided to then spend time on talking to users in those markets. So, and it's important to talk to the right users. And this is one area I would say, while building a business which is global focused from day one is great, but building a product needs to be very specific to the ICP, which is the ideal customer profile you want to target. So we initially defined our ICP well, which is B2B SaaS companies trying to grow from a founder-led sales process to scaling their revenue engine, largely between 100 to 1,000 employees, typically venture funded. So that was our initial ICP that we could work with. And we wanted to speak to these companies wherever they are. And then we narrowed down on US as a key market and spoke to a lot of these customers in US, try to identify what's not working out for them, what is the pain point they are facing. And that drove our product roadmap initially. And we basically have been very obsessed with the user pain, and then solving it in whatever best way we can as a company. And that's led to the product and company success so far.
Yeah. And obviously, this is your first time as a CEO. When you're looking at building a company, there's so many different metrics for kind of measuring success in a startup. Like, what are the key things that you are keeping your eye on a daily basis to kind of make sure they're going in the right direction?
I think from day one, it was about first 6 months was about discovery, discovering the pain and unmet need for our users. So we've defined broadly our vision that, okay, we want to make more salespeople successful in the world, right? I mean, that's a very broad vision, similar to solving for world hunger or poverty or something like that, right? So it's a big vision. But how do you do that, right? So you need to narrow down on who are these salespeople. Let's take an example of a particular industry. Are we talking about the individual contributor, account executive? Or are we talking about a first line manager who's a player coach? So answering some of those questions, and then from there moving on what is their day in the life of where are they struggling, where are they facing the pain points. So trying to go deeper there and then formulating the right questions for them, for us to uncover the opportunity areas and pain areas. So that was the first 6 months, and we've been hyper focused on making sure that we get to the real pain point, which resonates across multiple conversations, right? So, and we stopped doing those conversations once we had like double-digit number of users telling us the same pain point, and they were like rating it very highly. So we knew that we have landed on something worth solving. From there, you move on to like quickly build the product. So I think the next 3 months of company's journey was build the product, an early product as soon as possible, and give it into the user's hands to take the feedback, right? So there's no point to wait for building a well polished product. So there we carried our KPIs around how quickly we can ship, and give it to users. And once the users started using it, how do we track and monitor user behavior, talk to them, understand how they're using the product, and then making sure we iterate on the user feedback, and yeah, iterate it really fast for users to trust us and then continue to use the product. And we've been doing that iteratively, and that's led to like product market fit, that you suddenly realize that you solve the pain in a way where users are delighted. There's a eureka moment for them when they start using the tool now, and the next set of users are going to have a great experience as they come on board. There onwards, it's all about like how do you like quickly develop your product roadmap to take more customers in, invest into your product architecture. So it's all about product development from there, and then parallelly building a pipeline, right? Because now you've got like a product, you got a pain point, you got a user and buyer set, you got a working product. Now, how do you find more people like your ICP or within your ICP and try to build a pipeline and sell to them? So that's where the GTM effort starts. So then we start looking at GTM. So I think the answer is that within those 18 months, there is no one clear metric that I can talk about, but it's a journey, right? So at different
step by step.
Step by step, and at different stage, you'll have a different KPI or key thing to focus on. And in parallel, as a founder, you need to also build a team. You need to hire. You need to also put together whatever the right processes, keeping it lightweight, but at least start putting something in place. Maybe the culture starts showing up, though. How do you make sure that comes through in the next set of hiring you do, onboarding you do? And then also like make sure as a CEO, I mean, your job is that the company has the runway, right? So how do you raise funding? So I would say like a CEO founder's job lies on three important things, right? First is make sure that the company doesn't run out of cash. Second is build a compelling vision. And third is build a team to execute that vision. If you do those three jobs well, then I think you'll be successful as a CEO founder. It's as simple as that. But they're like quite hard in themselves. So I'm just trying to like attempt these three and see if I can do a good job there.
Yeah, I mean, you boil it down to three, but there's so much that goes into each one of those three. It's an incredibly complicated job. But yeah, I mean, absolutely fascinating to hear about your journey. And thank you for coming on and talking to us today. So if people want to get in touch with you and talk about Nectar, like where do you live? Are you email, website, or LinkedIn? Where's the best place to reach you?
So I'm quite active on LinkedIn. Anybody can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm open to network. So anybody can reach out to me there. If you want to try out our product, you could register for early access. We still have early access open for rest of this year before we launch for general availability. And we are prioritizing the waitlist first before we start commercially selling it into the market. So if you want your hands on Nectar, the best place is to go to our website, Nectar.ai, and look for early access and register there. And in case you want to get in touch with me, I write blogs on Medium. I'm also on Twitter as well. And LinkedIn is the best place to connect. So you can follow me on some of these channels.
Yeah, perfect. Well, it's such an exciting sort of stage of your growth, and the next 2 years it's going to be really interesting to see this spread across the world, and I'm sure more and more users will be adopting it. So yeah, thank you for coming on, and look forward to seeing the company grow.
Thank you, Ben. It was my pleasure being on your show, and thanks again. Best of luck. Stay safe.
Okay, thanks, Abhijeet.